Broadcasting live from petrified Hamlet on the plain of Arcavios, this is TapTapConcede. Welcome, everybody, to TapTapConcede. My name is Graham. Joining me this week is Nelson.
Hey, I'm here.
And special guest, Gavin Verhey.
Hey, everybody. I love looking at random magic cards and talking about them.
I know that about you.
It's a fun fact. So when you heard about the show, I'm like, gotta get in on this. It's going to be a good time, you know?
Exactly, because today it is Scryfall Roulette featuring special guest Gavin Verhey. And also, Nelson is here, and I'm Graham, and this is TapTapConcede. We've worked everything backwards now.
I believe it's Concede Tap Tap.
Tap Tap, yes.
It is now.
That's how I do it. Before we start, I want to remind everybody that the show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Please check out cardkingdom.com/LRR for all of your cardboard needs. Tell them we sent you, by which I mean there's a little box to leave a comment. Say, Loading Ready Run sent me. Button, please. And you'll get a little button, which for this month, the month of May, says, my deck isn't bad. It just hasn't won yet. So enjoy that. You can also get Dragon Shield sleeves or anything on the Dragon Shield store with a 5% discount with the code LRRMTG5. And finally, and most importantly, everything we do here at Loading Ready Run, not even magic stuff, but everything is brought to you by you and your support of our Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, or by becoming a member on this YouTube channel. Okay, it's go time. We've given Gavin a brief rundown of how Scryfall Roulette works, and as you mentioned, you picked it up very quickly.
I mean, the name does give a lot away.
Exactly,
there.
yeah. You've played a game or two in your time.
So do I bet on black or red?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we haven't decided on the ante yet. But,
right, yeah.
We have to put in a certain amount.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't yet figured out a way to monetize this, and that's probably for the best. So
all right, so Nelson, I'll wait.
Right.
No. We would never do that.
Watching this, you're gambling your own time in the hopes that it's going to come up laughs.
Exactly.
Perfect. Given that, James, hit us with the first card. Ooh, Skull Cage. This is a 4-mana artifact that reads, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Skull Cage deals 2 damage to that player unless they have exactly 3 or exactly 4 cards in their hand.
Right, so this is a descendant of, say, the Rack, Black Vice, right? If you're going to go all the way back in the day, you had those iconic cards in the beginning that punish your opponent for having too many cards in their hand or too few cards in their hand, and Ivory Towers, of course, the riff on that that helps you out. And there's been a number of riffs of that on that throughout history, and there was a time where I think we were very afraid of those cards, and Skull Cage is about as tame as you can possibly get. It's like, all right, if you just don't keep exactly 3 or 4 cards in your hand, which, by the way, by turn 4 is kind of a hard number to have in your hand for many turns on end, because you tend to drop into the 1 to 2 card range if you're an aggressive deck, or stay in the healthy 5-ish card range if you're a controlling deck. It's a very easy card to play around. Not the most powerful card at 4 mana for 5th Dawn.
I want to say this card is so bad that it gives us an interesting window into what was going on at R&D when it came out, because this is from 5th Dawn, so it's 2 sets after Chrome Mox and Affinity were just printed. So those are that was it's okay. We're gonna let the kids have that. But specifically the Rack for only, is it 3 or only 4 cards? Sorry. 3 or 4. Specifically the Rack.
It's exactly 3 or 4 cards.
3 or 4. Yeah. The Rack for the 3 or 4 window, that can't cost 1 like its compatriots. And 2 would be too much as well. We can't let them have 2 damage for less than 4 mana. It's a weird one. I think I've only ever seen this in the last picks of my booster drafts.
Yeah, not the strongest. I will say, if this just happened to show up on a commander table, it would probably deal some damage, you know? But it's certainly not strong enough to put into a deck. This really reads to me as someone who kind of has a good vibe for how cards are made these days. Granted, it was a long time ago, but this really strikes me as uncommons are a slot in sets where a card can just go by for a long time and never change because it was someone's fun idea. It's oh, here's a goofy idea. It'll be a card that's kind of referenced to the Rack. And then no one ever drafts and plays this card. You never put this card in your draft deck.
Right.
No one puts it in their constructed deck. So as a result, it kind of and because it's an uncommon, there's less limited scrutiny put on the slots. There's some number of uncommons that are allowed to just do whatever they do. And so this card just kind of exists and gets printed, and it comes out, and no one really cares, and the world moves on, and the designer that made it is cool. And if you look at Magic sets throughout history, even ones today, there are sometimes uncommons that fall into that kind of forgotten about slot where it was a fun idea, not really that strong and limited, kind of a clever, sometimes top-down, although this is not particularly top-down design, that just sticks all the way through.
Right, and it shows us to a window back in the days when there were, as you're saying, on-purpose cards that weren't as good as the best cards in Limited, whereas the design more now, I find there's usually a limited draft deck home for almost every card in the pack, right? That that seems to me like maybe I'm remembering this right or not. It's like part of Project Booster Fund, where you're just like if you open a draft booster, a play booster for draft, it's like these cards should all be kind of like okay, at least like they should have a place. Whereas like 2003, you know, we wanted to test the kids to see if they could pick out the good cards in the pack.
Right. Yeah, these days I think mostly like my rules are either has to be working for a limited archetype, be pointed towards some format, constructed, you know, commander, limited, whatever, or be like a charming or resonant card.
Sure.
And so these days, this would be most likely to have survived as is if it was like charming or resonant in some way. If it was like, oh, a really strong reference to Black Visor Rack. But this isn't really that, right? It's like, it's trying to be. It's like one layer removed with a different name or different art. Maybe you get closer to the Black Visor Rack, but it's not there as it stands.
I do want to give a kudos to Ron Spencer because the art does go pretty hard.
Yeah.
Well,
I definitely once put together a commander deck that had like all the different sort of iterations of this, like Debtor's Cage and like basically to cover the spread, right?
You
it was
can't
like
escape,
no matter
it was like,
what.
however many cards you have in your hand, you're taking 2 damage, and it did not work.
It's like, all right, you've assembled your combo. Graham, what is it? You take 2 damage every turn. All right.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Oh,
Depending on
dang,
the
you
piece.
got me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, James, hit us again with the next card. Oh, hey, classic. It's Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red sorcery, originally printed in Innistrad. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and it deals 13 damage to each creature. This has to be one of the most eagerly reprinted red wraths. Like, this shows up in a lot of Commander precons now.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And I'll tell you a reason why that's the case. Because this effect is banned.
Oh.
What I mean by that is this is not a red color pie card anymore. So we can't really make new cards that are this strong. The rate of sweeping is too strong, and it hits everything too easily. So our line is kind of white and black, can get mass board sweepers, destroy all creatures. Red can deal damage to all creatures. So you look at this card and you're like, well, red's dealing damage to all creatures.
Yeah, what's
wrong with that? The problem is it's fake. 13 damage to each creature is sweeping all creatures, right? It's like, except for the very rare occasions where you've like made something huge. I'm not saying this is a net, like sometimes in Commander there will be some creature that survives this, but generally this is 1 mana destroy all creatures, which is both a better rate than white or black get, and is not anything about doing damage, right? If this dealt 4 damage to each creature, or maybe 5 damage to each creature, it would be more permissible. Like, oh, you could maybe see how some large creatures could survive. I could totally see that. But at 13 damage, it's basically just a 1 mana sweep the board, making this one of the best board sweepers in Commander, period.
Right.
Yeah. It's a 1 mana, as you say, functionally kill everything.
Even in draft, like this card had plenty of value. You know, if you were in Boros, you didn't want to cast it, but your deck could cast it for cheap easily if like things did get away from you, and then maybe you're just like relying on the rending volleys or something to finish them off. Or if you were in blue-red, it was like, yeah, you're just going to get some more mana and you're going to get some idiots on the board that you don't mind killing. Yeah, I have a lot of fondness for this card because in a 2-player game, it's much more skill testing.
Yeah.
In Commander, yeah, totally. Everything you said.
But this is a card I remember loving to splash. It's because the single pip on this lets you splash it really easily. It's in like your blue base deck or something like that.
It's wild that it's not double red.
Right. Because they want you to get the maximum discount. I would probably put 2 red symbols on this.
Right, if it was getting reprinted. Yeah, do you think that would be okay? Because you're like, this card's banned. Like, we're not putting this back into a regular set or even, you know, something like this for only 1 red pip. But could you see Blasphemous Act if it was just 1 red pip instead of one of the colorless? And that's fine for...
So there's 2 different egregious things happening here by color pie standards. The first one is the fact that it kills everything, right? The damage number doesn't matter. It just kills everything. So that is one color pie violation. The second color pie violation is it's extremely efficient, more efficient than white or black would get. And we do value like efficiency of effect in terms of color pie. So it actually violates the pie on both axes. And I think to print this card today, we would probably have to change both of those. So maybe it's like, maybe at like RR some number, and then whatever 5 damage, you start getting into the realm of possibility. But you need to fix both
you see
those.
a lot. But I can't think of another sweeper between 6 and 12. You know what I mean? Like, it's even 6 is like almost every creature.
I can think of I think the one, I could be wrong, in Edge of Eternity's Commander that makes everyone sack down to 6 lands that deal 5 damage or 6 damage.
I don't know.
Planetary
Yeah,
Annihilation,
I was
maybe?
just looking at that card the other day. Maybe that one does.
It either, and I also can't remember if it deals 6 damage, makes everyone stack to 6 lands, or deals 5 damage, makes everyone stack to 5 lands. One of those two.
Thank you.
It is 6 damage. There we go. Thanks, James.
So we do see 6 damage,
But it costs 5 mana, devastating. Anyway, the aesthetics. But so here's 6. But this card is quite controversial too, and I think 6 is really higher than we should normally go on this kind of stuff. So yeah, we could change Blasphemous Act. We would probably make it RR and a set number of damage. We saw in a sequel to, or somewhere, I don't remember which set it was, but there's Vanquish the
Horde,
right?
Also discounted white card, right?
6 dub, cost 1 less for every creature on the battlefield, destroy all creatures.
Right.
And to me, Vanquish the Horde is there we are on the screen, although not in the original set it was printed in. But this is more, there we go. This is, in a sequel to Innistrad nonetheless, as a throwback to Blasphemous Act. This is more the card we would make today, right? It's in white, it's in the correct color pie, it has 2 pips on it, so it doesn't go down to 1 mana. This is our kind of fixed attempt, as it were, on a Blasphemous Act.
I mean, one card that I always think about in the red world would be Anger of the Gods. How does that weigh in?
Yeah, Anger of the Gods, thumbs up. 3 damage, great, wonderful.
Is there something that's almost like Anger of the Gods in Foundations?
Brotherhood's End? No, that's on the.
But we've seen this effect.
I mean, there's Slagstorm, Anger of the Gods, Brotherhood's End. Anything up to 4 damage is totally doable, right? There's the 4 mana deal 4 Titans.
That's the one
Wrath,
I'm thinking.
maybe?
Titans Wrath. I think that one's might have been reprinted.
That
in
might be in
Foundations.
standard or whatever. Yeah.
And then 5 damage is okay. 6, we don't want to do that often. Planetary Annihilation was an unusual exception for commander sizing, but 13 basically kills everything for the most part.
I do appreciate that you've managed to find, because the name Blasphemous Act is so good.
Yes,
that you've managed to find great places to reprint it in UB commander decks.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Blasphemous Act shows up in almost every commander precon cycle, I would say. It's like, as you mentioned earlier, the default red sweeper because it is so strong. And it is very nice that turns out basically every possible IP you could want to work with has some kind of Blasphemous Act. Is it Heartbreak? Is it destroying a planet? Is it, whatever, go down the line.
Some sort of treachery.
Right, it's it's very easy. Where some other names, there's some cards in every commander series we like to do that, so there's a line with Universes Beyond, right? If it's got a magic world name on it, like Llanowar Elves, okay, it's not going to show up, right? And if it's really, really, really generic, like Arcane Signet, pretty easy to make it show up. But there are some cards that are like, we want to do them a lot, and we will put them in these commander precons, and it's like, okay, creative team, what is your answer for Eternal Witness? What is that in this world? Who's been watching something eternally? Surely you can figure out someone that can do that, right? So there's always like a couple cards that are like, okay, we're gonna use it. It's got a generic name. What is it on this world? Can we figure out how to make it happen?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that is often a large consideration is creature types, because like if you're doing Lord of the Rings, elf reprint, no problem. If you're doing Doctor Who, elf reprint, problem. And we think about that a lot as well.
Are you able to? I don't know if you still have the page open, James. Are you able to see some of the UB
Blasphemous Acts?
Blasphemous Acts?
It's neat that Blasphemous Act gets printed in almost every commander cycle, even though, as we just discussed, it's outside of what we want kind of to be designing new cards for. But I guess there's a different set of rules for commander product. And one of those is just like try to give these new players or give people the tools to play fun games commander. And like Blasphemous Act sort of does that, right? Because it lets you play a powerful sweeper in red, even though we wouldn't do it again.
The line we generally draw in commander precons is we can reprint whatever, right? We're not adding new cards to Magic, so we should give people an authentic experience. I think not including the Blasphemous Acts and Chaos Warps and Harmonizes is like just an inauthentic commander experience. We should not make more of those cards. And so, we need to give red a sweeper, and let's give it the best one. All right, so here we go. We got a Blasphemous Act up on screen.
I love this one. This is
great choice.
This is Fallout. This is the inflection point. This is the bombs falling that sets the entire Fallout world going, right? The Blasphemous Act is the nuclear annihilation of the world.
Yep, that's certainly blasphemous.
Probably, probably the most extreme one that's not completely, like, I think the 40K one is like fully just a planet being cut in half.
I think Doctor Who is also the master.
Yeah. Oh, no, right. Sorry, the 40K one is the roiling depths of the Eye of Terror, the bloodthirsty hordes of Chaos Marines plot the downfall of their loyalist brethren. Okay.
It's like a treachery kind of
right, because they're the Chaos Marines. They're space marine. They're the Marines that have been tainted by chaos. Right.
Right. Here's the Doctor Who one of blowing up Gallifrey or whatever.
That's a big deal too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would classify that as a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, and then I forgot there was a Ninja Turtles one. Huh. Yeah.
I don't know which moment this is either.
I don't know either. They're the Foot Clan have burned down something the second time around. I don't know what that is. I'm behind on my turtles.
But as Gavin said, in almost every IP, there's some huge moment of treachery.
Yeah.
That's often like crucial to good storytelling. Is there something that we all regret, or like we're picking up the pieces from something terrible that happened?
I was thinking of for 40K. I was thinking of Past in Flames, which is Fall of Cadia, which is different, but still. Anyway, anything further for Blasphemous Act?
I think we've talked about this card plenty.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this card instead.
Drainpipe Vermin, finally a real heater.
Drainpipe Vermin, single black mana for a 1/1 rat, and when it dies, you may pay black, and if you do, target player discards a card.
I'll give a few thoughts on this. So, of course,
do.
this comes from a long lineage of rats that make people discard cards. I don't know how we decided, really, that rats would be the discard thing, but Ravenous Rat really is the thing that kicked that all off. Ravenous Rat first showing up in
Odyssey?
Mirage. Well, it was in Invasion.
Okay.
But I think there was also maybe a version in Tempest or Mirage or something like that. But Invasion is the iconic one I always think of. And it kind of just fell out from there. So often you'll see our rats be discard effects. This card has a couple things going on about it that I don't really like.
Right.
I'll tell you the two big ones. One is I dislike mana-gated death triggers that can happen really easily on your opponent's turn. This is a card they're going to want to chump block with a lot, and you need to leave a black open, but you might not chump block with it because maybe they don't attack, so you have to leave this black mana open that you don't want to use. But of course, the much more villainous problem with this card is the instant speed discard. If I have a sack outlet and this on the battlefield, and my opponent's, all right, go ahead, draw your card. It's your only card in your hand. I'll sack it. Discard your card. I hate that. I hate that little window there. It's very frustrating. So.
I've read before that like instant speed discard at like on some different mothership articles, like that's something that WotC is like very, very careful about and like only comes up extremely rarely. And as a player, I don't know if I've ever been hit with it. Like maybe once I've been in the situation where I'm like, oh, and they're in their draw step, I can get them here, with like the Cesper Charm or whatever. And it's like, yeah, the care and like the way that it's avoided, it makes sense because it is kind of a harsh feel bad. And I guess just this is a product of that. The job has been getting done. You know what I mean? Like,
Perhaps there's a correlation between those two things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like,
and this one, as far as cards go, this one is pretty innocuous. You have to have another card that can sacrifice. So it's like it's not that bad. Like this card is not an egregious card to print or anything.
Right.
The card I was thinking of as like being problematic is like Funeral Charm or Necrogen Spellbomb, where it's just so easy to steal their last card in their hand.
Yeah.
Because part of the reason why I think that is so frustrating is one, it just sucks to get like secret time walked or whatever.
Right.
But two, for a lot of people, they just like play out their last card in their hand. They play out their last land or whatever. They're not holding extra lands. And so when you play out your last land, then you get Funeral Charmed in your draw step. It just sucks. It just feels bad. But yeah, I don't know what there's to say about this other than it's a rat on Ravnica, which it's a city world. It makes sense.
I like talking about your first point a little bit more, just breaking it down for anyone who doesn't immediately understand that like it's not just that you might not chump block. Or you might not block with your creature and pay the black, and so then you kind of get ruined because if you didn't leave the mana up and then you need to block, you don't make them discard their card, and your card doesn't exchange with another card. And if you do, and then they just don't attack, now it puts the power in your opponent's hands when you're the Drainpipe Vermin player, right? Like they get to decide if holding up your black mana worked out or not. In like the broader sense of that, just getting an effect for 2 payments is often worse and feels worse as the player than getting it for 1. Like Ravenous Rats cost a generic and a black for 1/1, and immediately they discard the card, and that's the kind of mold that Drainpipe Vermin is made out of. But when you insist on a second payment at a later time, it just makes your plan clunkier. Like whether it's chump blocking or sacrificing to something.
Oh, I specifically dislike it on death triggers because that's when you have the least control over. And there's this huge push and pull. And we talked a little bit about the like leave mana up. Do they attack? Do they not? But there's also the flip side of that is, can I afford to tap out? Because then they have a window to kill my thing and I can't get my ability off of it. And that always feels bad as well. Right. Now, for a single card, it's not quite as bad, but as the death triggers get more and more impactful, it gets more and more frustrating. So it's not a thing we tend to do a lot of. We can do it sometimes. It's not saying it's off the table, but we're very mindful of it because it can be a pretty frustrating play pattern.
Yeah. I guess the upside, the initial upside, I think here is like, well, you could play this on turn 1 and then attack with it. You can't do that with Ravenous Rats. Like, that's not that big a deal. These days, I'm like, well, maybe there's a world where you're trying to put 3 Drainpipe Vermins in your bin, and then you're getting 3 mana value back of a reanimation spell that looks for that, and then it's like, wow, I'm getting like a whole extra card and a half eventually. This is a weird like puzzle I'm building in my brain for how to make Drainpipe Vermin somehow better than Ravenous Rats. It's a lot of work.
If I was making this card today, I would try one of 2 different versions. I think they're both kind of interesting. I would try when this creature dies during your turn, target opponent discards a card. Okay. That's kind of nice because then it tells you to attack with it or sacrifice it. So you have this fun little game of like, I attack. Do you want to block my guy? You're going to discard a card. Or maybe I play it in a sack deck. Or I would try when this dies while it's attacking or blocking. Target opponent discards a card. So you can still threaten to block with it. You'll always get the card off of it. It's less about being sacrificed. I think that's the 2 directions I would try if I was making this card today.
Would you ever make... Yeah, say now, and you're talking about taking the mana gate off of it.
Take the mana gate off.
Hate the mana gate.
Yeah. Well, that both takes the mana gate off and fixes some of the other problems the card.
Yeah, I love the on your turn thing or when it's attacking. I feel like if we're making when it's attacking, you can make them discard a card. Can we also give it a second power?
Well,
that's too much.
Uncommon, maybe no. It sounds really strong. It sounds pretty strong.
I want to put the mana gate back on for my second power.
I'll sell you a second toughness. Can I interest you in a 1/2?
Baby Drainpipe Vermin 2026. You can't wait.
Second toughness free, no problem.
Honestly, as soon as you take the mana gate off, and it feels totally fine to say it only works on your turn. That feels like
or
a
while
way
attacking
more
or
fun
blocking.
card. Yeah, even
I don't mind on a block. That's fine.
Sure, then they know.
You attack like it's like a typhoid rat
no feel
situation.
bad.
Yeah. But I want them to know
when it dies while attacking or blocking. Target opponent discards card. I love it.
I just like how things like that develop in Magic design, where it's like, oh, it's a rat, so it does a discard thing. I like that. It's like, well, we made 1 rat and it discards. That could have been the end of it.
Right.
Next rat could have been a totally different thing. But they were like, oh, that rat made things discard. This rat also is going to make things discard. Or this thing that discard will decide that this is a rat because we had a rat do that previously. And now that it's just like, that's just a thing that in Magic, rats are closely related to discard because they're like detrivores, I guess, or scavengers.
I always think of it as the first time you do something, could be anything.
Yeah.
The second time you do that thing, now we got a line. And
right.
Once you have that line, you're like, all right, well, the third time I know where I'm drawing from, right? And so you see that happen a lot, I think.
The other thing,
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Return to Ravnica is an interesting set for rats because the other thing that rats are known for, especially from this set, is just there being lots of them and them being huge, right? And that's a thing that rats did in Alpha Beta. With Plague Rat.
Yeah.
I didn't do it nearly as well as with Pack Rat, but there's not as many points on that curve at all, but it is still like an interesting throwback.
Oh, right, because sometimes you want a Drainpipe Vermin just to make your pack rat.
Yeah, I was seeing Drainpipe Vermin's secret value of being the turn 4 2 rats in play.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I suggest just paying through mana and discarding your Drainpipe Vermin to make a pack rat? It's about as good.
Probably better.
That's fair.
Probably better, yeah, that's fair. All right. Thank you, Drainpipe Vermin. What's next? Phyrexian Ingester.
Ooh.
This is a fascinating one. 6 and a blue, so 7 mana for a 3/3. Hold up. But it has imprint. When Phyrexian Ingester enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-token creature. You can imprint a creature. And Phyrexian Ingester gets +X+Y, where X is the exiled creature's power and Y is its toughness. That's an interesting way to word that, but I guess that's how it has to work.
This is an extremely new Phyrexia Magic card.
No kidding.
And I'll go into a little bit why here. I believe it's also a Phyrexian beast these days. James can correct me if I'm wrong.
Almost definitely.
That is correct.
A few weird things about this card. So we're in New Phyrexia, so everything has to feel evil and transgressive, right? The whole set was about being a little transgressive. So we'll start with the first most obvious thing. Blue does not get pinpoint removal.
Yeah.
That is the thing that blue does not get access to.
Yeah, it's blue murder.
And this card's like, nah, we're just going to straight up kill something, which I do not believe this would pass color by muster by today's standards. We do sometimes say that if you can get a colorless comp to your creature, you can do it in any color. So like a Meteor Golem style thing. But I do not believe this would pass by today's standards. Even because turns out being transgressive to the color pie is like not really a theme we're keen on, in general. It's like historically not the best move. So this does that, which is really weird. Blue card that can kill anything. But of course, it has to be priced up expensive because like otherwise it would actually be problematic if it was like a 4-mana card. And then the other thing is it uses plus X plus Y, which is very unusual. Very few cards in Magic
Fireball
use that the X and Y thing. These days, if we were making a card like this, we would what I always tell my designers, because I've seen this template show up in a lot of card files, and I was just like, just apply the same thing to both of them. It's fine. Like
just check the power or whatever.
Yeah, just check the power, apply them both of the power. It's going to be fine. It's going to be a lot easier than referencing the card every single time, right? This creature gets +4/+2. I don't want to do that. No one wants to do that. Just give it +4/+4. Everyone's happy, you know?
Right.
Except for your opponent, I guess. So I'm much more keen on that. A couple other weirdo things here. You can kill it with the trigger on the stack before it gets big, which is always kind of a funky thing. I think it's the way you have to do this card. And then Imprint, right? Imprint shows up in original Mirrodin, and then is brought back in a little bit in Scars of Mirrodin, and then used right here. But this is a...
Is this the only time you imprint a creature?
There's Exclusion Ritual in the same set.
Oh, and Duplicant, actually.
And the from Scars of Mirrodin, the Vat, right? The Mimic Vat also imprints creature cards.
I mean, Soul Foundry. There's just plenty of cards that imprint creatures.
I forgot about the Vat. It's in my head for some reason. Imprint was always instants and sorceries, but no, it's right. Imprint.
Yeah, I mean, Chrome Mox even lets you imprint whatever you want, right? But it's still a very kind of wacky thing to do here. So a strange package, and truly it feels like a new Phyrexia card, I would say.
It's also, is there any reason that this has to be imprint? Because like when you're imprinting onto like the rod, I can't remember the
Isochron Scepter.
Thank you, Isochron Scepter. That's like because you're going to keep casting that spell, and Mimic Vat you're imprinting on it because you're going to make a copy of that thing. This you have to refer to it, but like the ingester isn't doing anything with the imprinted creature.
It's almost like, I don't know, you could just say when this enters, exile target non-token creature, put +1/+1 counters on this equal to its power. If you wanted to like cut half the words off this card.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what I would suggest to a designer today that they do. I understand wanting to use imprint because it's part of a mechanic in the block and stuff, but I would just make this card simpler. And look, if you do it my way, you probably get some nice little flavor text room in there.
Yeah.
You can keep Graham employed.
Talking my language.
Nice.
We've been talking a lot actually recently about flavor text. Because we've noticed, as I'm sure many of you have, our cards are getting wordier and wordier.
Flavor text becomes more and more precious when you can fit it in.
And so we've been putting in a lot of new metrics of like our sets need to have enough room for flavor text. It's really important.
Oh, yeah.
And so cutting words and making sure that there's room for flavor text on cards is very paramount in my mind right now. And so when a designer is trying to do something a little funky and complicated like this, I'm like, okay, but what if we did the slightly simpler thing that is going to be about the same in like a lot of the cases, and they learned a bit about the world? What is the Phyrexian Jester doing? Probably ingesting, but who's to say, really?
What's their favorite thing to ingest? Or like, where do they come from? So
who are they ingesting?
When I see this card, I look at, or I see like Duplicant with a facelift.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned this earlier where it's like, if you pay enough colorless mana, you can kind of give any effect to any part of the color pie, right? So it's like, you've got that 6 in the top right corner there. That's kind of like the mana cost of this card. It's like lots of colorless mana. And then, okay, it happens to be blue, which feels like, I can't tell whether like pointing that out internally, whether it would seem like it's more of a cop out or it's legitimate, right? Because like, yeah, if you get to 7 mana, you can have Meteor Golem. So like, you could just put Meteor Golem as a harder to cast thing in every color, and it would be okay. But that's kind of a feel bad. Like that sort of sullies the vibe of the color pie. So the other thing I see is like, well, Duplicant was this like shapeshifter that, I don't know, I guess like kills the other creature probably and then like takes their place.
Presumably, yeah.
Whereas this thing like eats them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's meant to be like any kind of like lore connection there as like the new Phyrexians take over the plane of Mirrodin. Maybe just a vibe connection rather than like, this is how you get taken out. When you're living in Phyrexian danger, you just get eaten by a beast rather than being like taken out by some covert operative robot. In the good old days of Scars of Mirrodin.
Maybe he's just hungry.
Yeah.
He's a hungry guy,
Sure.
A hungry little guy. And perhaps flavor text could help us here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do think it's worth saying too that like you can start to get close to colorless effects in any color if a card costs enough, but not every time. Like red is still not getting enchantment removal even at 7 mana, right? So like blue killing something outright, not my favorite to do. And I would probably just make a totally different card these days, and I would not put this card in blue. I would look at even do like a Banisher Priest kind of thing if you wanted to track it for longer. I would maybe Blue doesn't even really do this anymore, but maybe you could talk about at the right mana cost, like exiling it and they get a token of some kind, right? You turn the creature into a Phyrexian, but this package does not do it for me.
Usually you see them tap it down or whatever.
Also, we've not talked about this part at all.
Oh.
This is a rare Magic the Gathering card.
Oh, yeah.
Not anymore. Yeah, from New Phyrexia. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This is if I open this my new Phyrexia booster pack as my rare, I would be disappointed.
Sure.
It's like I could have opened up Batterskull or Phyrexian Ingester.
Yeah.
You know, like this is not the card I'm looking
Sword
for.
of War and Peace.
A 7-mana, kill your creature, get a 6/6 is ain't doing it for me.
Let's be honest. The rare in the pack was the Dismember.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because you were talking about, just briefly before we move on to the next card, you were, when you're talking about like the flavor text, and there are more instances than I think maybe I should admit where when I'm in the instances where I'm lucky enough to get to work on the flavor text, where I'm looking at a card and there's like the mechanics of the card and there's the art brief and there's the art that actually ended up, which is like a little different from the brief, and you look at it and you're like, how does that art connect to these mechanics? Something fell apart here, and this doesn't make sense anymore. It's my job to spackle over this crack. Yeah. It is my job to use the flavor text so that someone looking at the card can go, wait, what is this? And then they read the flavor text and go, oh, okay.
Yeah. This is like
the plausible deniability of like, yeah, this kind of works.
This is the justification part of the improv.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, I've given you the tools for your scene. You now must justify why all these things are here.
Exactly. So yeah, it could have helped on this one. You're right. Yeah.
Can I also just ask if I can only think of one other card in all of Magic that uses X and Y, and it's the brief window, I think 4th edition Fireball. Can you think of any other cards that use X and Y?
There's very few.
So few.
I think there is another card in this vein that like cares about power. Like there's a green card. When it attacks, it's from Guild Pact, I think. When it attacks, you like flip cards from the top of their library or your library until you reveal a creature, and it gets +X +Y until end of turn. Where X is the James. If you can find it, I think it's like bioplasm. Maybe if you can find it, put it on the screen. Maybe I'm good, or maybe I'm totally wrong.
Mana Plasma, Bioplasma.
Oh,
yes. Wow!
Am I good or am I good?
The sniper
to it.
Incredible.
I was
who's Benjamin Wheeler? You don't need him anymore. You got me.
Dope.
This is 3 green for a 4/4 ooze. Whenever Bioplasm attacks, exile the top card of your library from the game, or exile the top card of your library. If it's a creature, Bioplasm gets +X +Y until end of turn. X is power, Y is toughness.
This card is so brutal. It's like just your top card. I hope it's a creature.
Yeah. Hope it's
Cross
not
your
your land you
fingers.
need. Yeah.
That's so weird.
And also
your ribbons tonight. Yeah.
Also, please commit to your attack before knowing how large this creature is. How large is it going to be? Couldn't tell you.
It's going to at least be a 4/4, but yeah.
On the flip side, there's a card that I have a lot of fun. So I have a cube. I did not bring it here this week. We're going to play a different cube of mine. But my other cube that I enjoy is quite wild. It is all cards that appeared originally in Commander products.
Oh.
And you play it 1/120 life. So you get to play these cards in a very unusual context than you're used to. And some cards that are normally very powerful in Commander are not very good at all in 1/1, like Dockside Extortionist, Teferi's Protection, like not really doing much. And there are cards that are not very good in Commander, that show up in a Commander precon that turn out very good. So, James, would you just pull up Nascent Metamorph, a card I'm sure we all know.
I have no
I think
memory
I've
of
seen
this
it. I
card.
don't know if I could tell you what it does.
What
Is it
commander
a cheap
is this
clone?
from?
This is a very fun card to play with. I'm not saying it is the strongest card, but it is one of my favorite cards to play in this cube. Here's Nascent Metamorph. When it attacks or blocks, you flip cards on top of your opponent's library until you get a creature, and it copies whatever that creature is. So once again, you never really know what you're going to get. But the thing I like about this card is at least you know you're getting something. And it's a base 1/1. So you're like, well, it's definitely better than a 1/1, right? It's going to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So I find this card very fun, especially on defense. It's like, hey, Graham, you gonna attack me?
I guess.
What's in your deck? Am I gonna be able to kill your creature? Who's to say, really?
That's so weird.
Yeah, that's fun.
Commander 20.
Yeah.
Which deck was this?
It's Ikoria, right? Is it
Oh, it must
Ikoria
be.
Commander?
It must be.
Yeah.
There's the crystals, and it's a weird
I think this is the
shape-shifty
mutate
beast.
deck.
That makes sense. Oh, that'd be a really fun thing to mutate onto. If anyone keeping score, it's 1 and a blue for a 1/1 that does everything that Gavin just said. Attacks or blocks. That's so weird.
Yeah,
you go,
or
like,
blocks would
you
have
just
been
go,
huge for
yeah,
Bioplasm.
yeah, I block with my 1/1. Start flipping.
Yeah, let's see what you get. And the swings are so so big. But anyway,
So weird.
That cube is very wild. You play with a lot of cards you've never seen in your life. The number one comment I get on that cube is, it's like playing a new Magic set, because so many of these cards are like the 8th best card in some Commander Precon from Commander 2013 or something like that, you know?
Wow.
So it's fun.
I'm going to have to get you to send us that list.
Yeah. You can find it on Cube Cobra right now. It's called Regular Games Commander Cards.
Cool.
I found another XY. It's errated XY, but it's printed as star.
Oh, of course. Snowblind. How could we've all forgotten this
Yeah.
card? Really, that's a shame on us.
So
Shame on
Snowblind, I'm going to read it as printed. It's a 3 and a green enchant creature from Ice Age that reads, target creature gets -star.
You know, just want to be clear. You know, you're off to a good start with -star. It's really going down the right
Designers
path.
are really proud of themselves.
I'll be clear. This is 3 and a green. All right, please continue.
When that creature attacks, star is equal to the number of snow-covered lands defending player controls. At other times, star is equal to the number of snow-covered lands its controller controls. If this reduces the creature's toughness to less than 1, the creature's toughness is 1. So it can't kill it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what's the Oracle text on this, James?
So its enchanted creature gets -X/-Y. If that creature is attacking, X is the number of snowlands defending player controls. Otherwise, X is the number of snowlands its controller controls. Y is equal to X or to enchanted creature's toughness -1, whichever is smaller.
Yeah, there wasn't a way to Tarmogoyf it, I guess, right? Because it had to be a
That's not
variable.
better.
No, it's actually, I think that's worse.
That's more confusing.
Right, it's one of those things where a lot of the early cards in Magic are templated poorly, but you do understand what they do.
Yeah.
Right? Like you read them and you're like, okay, that's funny you wrote it that way, but at least I understand what happened.
My
right?
favorite is when you get an old card and in the rules text it says, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
love for
like the original Rock Hydra, right? Which is heads can be regrown for R a piece,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, that makes sense. You know,
Yeah,
heads
I
can be
get
regrown
it.
for R a piece. That makes sense. There's one of my favorite moments as a Magic designer. Is one of the most special moments to me. Is I was working on Dominaria, and we brought Richard Garfield in to work on the set with us, and my job during Dominaria I was the file keeper. So everyone sent me all of their designs. Then it was my job to put them in the file and to kind of figure out which ones would go in and which ones wouldn't go in. Sort of like a second in command of Rosewater on the set. And Richard would email me all of his designs. So I just have mini emails of like fresh Richard Garfield designs that he sent me. And his designs are great. And Richard's a genius, obviously. However, what is infinitely funny to me is they were all templated like it was 1994 because Richard doesn't know modern day templating. So like all of his cards were like spelled out tap, TAP, to destroy green creature, period. Effects that would regenerate cannot be used to prevent the creature from dancing. This does how he wrote all of his cards. It is delightful. I love looking at those cards sometimes. It was amazing.
That's so great.
Snowblind has got to be like one of the few cards in Magic that has like a further than top down design where it's like from an unset, because it's like, oh, snowblindness, what does it do? There's so many words, I have to squint, I can't quite see.
Right, it's fourth dimension design.
Yeah, exactly.
This font is so small.
Breaks the fourth wall with snow.
All right, James, hit us with another random. Ooh, Sarah Advocate. 3 and a white for a 2/2 angel with flying, and tap to give target attacking or blocking creature +2/+2 until end of turn. I thought the Urza's block was meant to be overpowered. What happened here?
Well, this card turns out in limited, still extremely, extremely strong.
Okay.
So this is actually part of a vertical cycle from Urza's Destiny, I believe this is. There's Angelic Page, which is the 1 and a dub for a 1/1 flyer that does this for +1/+1. That card got reprinted a number of times. There's this one that does +2/+2, and then I believe there is a rare that does +3/+3 as well and is more expensive.
Has to be a 4 or a 6 mana 3/3 or something, right?
That sounds like it fits the model to me.
Yeah.
These cards are really stultifying in combat. We tend to not really make them anymore because a single one of these untapped totally messes with all the attacking and blocking decisions. It's so hard to know what you can block, when how your opponent's going to block and distribute their stuff. You can use it at instant speed. It gets really complicated. I much prefer like stuff you can only use on your turn, or stuff that has to use pre-combat. So as a sorcery, give something +1/+1 till end of turn, or target attacking creature gets +1/+1 at least, so you're forced to use it on your turn. But these kind of effects are really strong. If you look, a few years ahead of this to Champions of Kamigawa, Kabuto Moth ends up being one of the defining cards of that limited format, which is 2 and a white for a 1/2 flyer that can tap to give a creature +1/+2 until end of turn. The other important contextual thing to keep in mind during this era is damage still went on the stack. So you could stack damage, and then after you knew the coast was clear, activate this to save one of your creatures, which was, of course, an additional point of strength on this card. So, these effects are pretty strong. And also, at the time, frankly, a 4-mana 2/2 flyer, totally reasonable as well. So a powerhouse uncommon, I would say, from this side. This is Destiny, right? The Flask is Destiny.
I don't know.
I had a mnemonic a while back.
Right, the gear is Saga.
The gear is Saga.
The gear for sure Saga.
And then the hammer. I think this is Destiny because the hammer is Legacy because you build a legacy.
That's
right?
There we go. Let's say
I think that was the trick, was just remembering that Saga is the gear.
Yeah, you are correct. This is Destiny.
This is Destiny.
Great.
So yeah. Also, if you just give this Vigilance, it's pretty scary. I don't know. Tax is a 4/4.
Sure.
You can do that for 1 more mana. But yeah, the damage in the stack thing, very important to note. And yeah, onboard combat tricks are those that don't say you can only do this on your turn. Because we also see a lot of you can only do this once per turn, which is fine. That's just meeting the power of it somehow. But any combat trick that you can do, or any action you can take mid-combat that's on one of your permanents, if everybody plays those, the game slows down as everyone has to keep track of all of them in order to do combat. They tend to just gum combat up and make combat less successful for everyone, and that's antithetical to closing a game out, especially if there's 4 players, right?
Let me tell you a tale. A tale we can all perhaps resonate with. So we had Time Spiral block. I'm sure we all remember Time Spiral block. It was a great block. I loved it. One of my favorite blocks of all time. It's
I got
full
into
of
Standard for the first time.
And you survived. Great job. It's full of all kinds of oblique references, things that don't make any sense why they're together. Why is there a card that's a mashup of Cloud Djinn and Electric Eel? We will never know, right? But I enjoyed these references. However, the set was extremely complicated, very challenging to play, and that led to a new dictate inside Wizards. Okay, we got to make things simpler, right? We knew that we had to make things simpler. Granted, I want to be clear, by the way, when I say we, I was 15. I was not working with Wizards of the Coast at this time.
But the designers.
The designers. So they're like, all right, next block, Lorwyn. We're going to make it much simpler. And so they made cards with only a single line of text. They made it, a very creature type focused, easy to approach. And the cards look simple individually, but if you've ever played Lorwyn Limited, it is mind-boggling. It is so challenging to play because there are so many instant speed tap abilities that count things. I think of what's that card? 1 and a U for a 1/1 that taps to give a creature -X/-0, where X is the number of merfolk and or fairies you control. And it's that card, Silvergill Dowser, I believe is the name. That card is just, it's one of those on board. It's good luck attacking or blocking. You're never going to figure this out. And then there's cards on the other hand. There's this Kithkin Dagger there that gives an attack creature +2/+2. There's just so many activated abilities that can be used at any time that to get to your point. Even though the cards are all individually very simple, it makes the boards really hard to process. And original Lorwyn was a very challenging set for a lot of people to play. And so much so that we had to institute a new thing after Lorwyn. We called it New World Order at the time, but it was basically we cannot be doing this anymore. And that's where a lot of the on your turn, sorcerer speed activation, removing inside combat stuff came from. Because I get that that there are people out there listening right now who probably Wizards is trying to dumb down our game. And it's the game is still really complicated. Magic is still one of the most complicated games in existence. I can get rid of your onboard instant speed combat tricks, and it'll still be just fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think we did that, and it's played a lot better as a result.
Yeah, and it's much more of a feel good, I think, for everyone, for both sides, when your combat trick is a card. It's a spell that was hidden. And then, you can still feel super smart about yourself by observing what mana your opponent has and trying to play around it. Mm-hmm. And the game offers that level of complexity. It's still very complicated, very difficult to successfully play around what combat tricks your opponent might have and still make combat correctly.
The other thing, here's an argument I'll make. Here's maybe perhaps a hot take.
Hot take from Gavin Verhey.
I leave it very firmly.
Sound the alarm.
I think it's pretty interesting. A lot of people believe that higher complexity on things like combat, more stuff on board like that, makes the game more skill testing, right? Because they're hey, there's all stuff you can do at instant speed. It makes it really interesting and deep and dynamic. I actually argue that a lot of that stuff makes the game less skill testing, or at least test the wrong skills. What do I mean? A lot of those skills that you're testing when you have a lot of onboard trick stuff like Angelic Page or what we just saw above, is like, did my opponent forget about this?
Yeah.
Can my opponent work through all the permutations of this happening? And the fact it can happen at instant speed means that as the player playing this card, the skill is not on me. It is often on my opponent to mess up and me to take advantage of. When you have to sorcery speed those kind of abilities, you have to think, it puts the onus back on you. You have to think before you attack, okay, how should I use this effect that's going to aid me the best in combat? And I think that kind of skill testing yourself, is a far better kind of skill testing to have for Magic. I think those kind of things are often more skillful. I'll give a classic example, which is damage on the stack. We all remember damage on the stack. A lot of people, when damage on the stack went away, and if you weren't playing at the time, if your back does not hurt yet, you might not remember damage on the stack. Damage on the stack was basically, the way it worked is you would declare your attacks and blocks, and then all the damage that was going to happen during combat went on the stack, and you could then respond to it. So if I attack with Grizzly Bear, you block with Grizzly Bear, we could stack damage, make sure you weren't going to kill my bear, and then I could giant growth it to give it +3/+3. Okay? So let's say that I have a Dark Confidant, and you have Sakura Tribe Elder. Okay? I have a 2/1, you have a 1/1. In damage on the stack, the play is always obvious. If I attack with Dark Confidant, you will block with Sakura Tribe Elder, you will stack damage, you will sacrifice Sakura Tribe Elder, my Dark Confidant will die. Happens every single time, 100% of the time. It is not particularly skill testing. It is just bad. Don't do this. In today's world, if I attack Dark Confidant into your Sakura Tribe Elder, an interesting question suddenly comes up. I would argue one that's quite skill testing. What's more important to you? Do you want to trade your Elder with my Dark Confidant? Or do you want to get a land? And that actually creates an additional decision point. I think it has made the game more skill testing over time, not less skill testing. So I think a lot of people see removing things from the game as removing skill from the game, but sometimes it actually opens up avenues for skill and complexity and play skill to matter. So anyway, that's a long-winded rant, but I think perhaps an interesting one.
Hear, hear.
Clip that out and put it on your social media. There you go.
I think your hot take has value and is, I want to say, of lesser importance than just the value we gain from making the game more approachable to new players.
Of course, right.
Yeah, and I want to give a nod to the designers who were like, we got to get damage out of the stack. Nobody who's new to Magic gets it.
Yeah. Don't you love Mana Burn?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking to people who maybe do. I unabashedly do love Mana Burn, but they gave us that Jund Commander. It's fine.
Yeah,
you know
thanks to your lock for pulling through for the home team.
It's all good. It's all good. I don't need it to be part of the whole game.
Just imagining Nelson dressed like the Onion sickos. It's like yes. Mana Burn.
Yeah.
Next card, James. Ooh, Tranquil Thicket. It's a land. It comes into play taps for green, or you can cycle it for a green. There's a
Banger.
whole cycle of these.
Banger. It's a cycle of cycles. So this showed up in Onslaught block. Now, I think it's interesting. In Urza's block, just a few years before this, we had cycling lands that were exactly identical to this cycle of cycling lands, except the cycling was too colorless, right? All the cycling in Urza block was too colorless as to cycle. Onslaught is where we see the evolution of colored mana and other variations besides just too colorless. And that one change, the Urza lands were not particularly played. They're not particularly strong. 2 mana to cycle was too much for lands that came into play tapped. The changing of the 2 colorless to a single mana here made a world of difference. These cards saw substantial play, not just because there was a cycling theme and suddenly your Forgotten Caves and Secluded Steppes could trigger your Astral Slides and Lightning Rifts, but also these saw play just because they were being able to trade your land in your hand later in the game to fight for a new card was something you'd want to do. And these kind of cards saw play in many formats.
I think whenever I see these cycling lands, I think of the classic bell curve where in the middle it's at its high and on the beginning and end it's low, and it's just brand new player meeting Tranquil Ticket for the first time. I wouldn't want to play this. It comes into play tapped. Then player who's played lots, it's you can trade your spare lands later in the game for a different card. It's great. And then extremely veteran players yeah, but then you're spending resources on that, and you'd rather just have all your lands come into play so you can take more game actions and cast more spells. It's fine. Just draw a land.
I agree. These cards are not as strong as they once were. But I always have a soft spot in my heart for these, especially because the first PTQ I ever won was a Life from the Loam deck featuring a bunch of these guys, and this is very strong with Life from the Loam, right? You get to draw a ton of cards.
That's so funny. I was coming in here trying to remember an article of yours, and I thought the first PTQ you ever won was with Blue Black Ninjas.
I did win a PTQ with Blue Black Ninjas, and I do love that deck, but it was not the first one.
It wasn't the first one?
No,
Okay,
the first one was Extended, Life from the Loam, Devastating Dreams, Destructive Flow, if you know that card, and a bunch of Tranquil Thickets, Barren Moors, and Forgotten Caves, and suddenly Life from the Loam is drawing you like 3 cards a turn, and your engines are cooking, and it's a good time. So I love these lands. I still put these in Stone Commander decks sometimes today.
I was going to say, certainly in monocolor decks, I think they're good because like a tapped land is not going to punish you too badly in Commander generally, and late in the game you can just be like, I'll just see what else I draw. I think it's nice. I have a cycle of these kicking around for just slipping into Commander decks as well.
Yeah, no, I do. Even though I made that bell curve reference or whatever, like I
we
do.
are not at the end of the bell curve. Is what we're all learning.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. No, they do have value. It's just like that. That was my process with meeting these initially, and then thinking like, oh yeah, these are the best thing ever. I want to play them a lot. Was putting them in like all the Canadian Highlander decks I was playing, and then as time went on, I'm like, okay, actually, I just want in this format, 1v1, 20 life, lots of cards. I just want to play every single land, and I want it to come untapped if possible. So that's my experience. But these are great, and obviously, like, they're an important point that we still come back to on the curve of like all the things in Magic. Many of them being cycling that are like, hey, it's a game of lands and spells. There's resources and the action, and sometimes you have the classic various mana problems, and we've got a bunch of different design mechanics to try to mitigate them and make the game enjoyable, even when you're getting too many lands or too few.
I also think it's worth calling out that when these cards were released, it was a very different time than today, right?
Yeah.
The cost for having a tapped land back then was much smaller, and there were just far fewer things to do with your lands, right? These days, when you're building a Canadian Highlander or a Commander deck, you have so many land options, and the games have had so much power injected into them that a tapped land is a much bigger cost to pay these days. Where in 2003, 2002, like, if you put a land play tapped, that was fine. And you just didn't have a lot. Like, keep in mind, we're coming off, like, 2001 was a year where Blue-Green Madness decks, or 2002 and 1, you played Blue-Green Madness, and your mana base was, like, 8 islands, 9 forest, 4 Yavimaya Coast.
Yeah.
That was your mana base. So, like, a little bit extra stuff to do is, like, very welcome.
Anything, just give me some options. Yeah,
exactly.
Whereas now we have a ton. Yeah.
Another. Ooh, timely reinforcements.
How timely.
2 and a white for a sorcery. If you have less life than an opponent, you gain 6 life. If you control fewer creatures than an opponent, you get 3 1/1 white soldier tokens.
I'm just going to say it. Banger.
This was like a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this was like we are in a new era of Magic, and the players can see it when this card was released. It immediately hit limited and standard really hard. Like, you had to be prepared for this.
Yeah, totally. This was an amazing sideboard card against any kind of red deck. Saw a lot of sideboard play. Pretty brutal, right? Like, if you're playing against red, you gain 6 life and get 3 blockers, which is really powerful. The thing I think that it does that I like the most, it's a great sideboard card, and it's a great design overall. I like this card a good deal. It's maybe a little more punishing than ideal against red, but whatever, that's fine. The thing I like the most about this card is I think it really entered into a new age, as to what you were saying, with how white was going to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, white is a great catch-up card for white. Hey, I'm falling a little behind. You're ahead of me. Boom, I can catch up to you. I think that those kind of designs we've seen a lot more of in recent years. And in general, they're pretty fun, I think, in small doses. When white's only thing is catching up, feels kind of bad because, like, what am I catching up to accomplish? But this kind of thing in general, I like the shape of.
Yeah. And I think we saw a fair bit of it in, like, well, the controlling decks could play it in their main board, right? But then also sometimes in certain matchups, like your opponent's on blue-white control, and then be like, okay, well, if I develop and I attack a bit, I have to have a plan for whether they cast Day of Judgment or Timely Reinforcements, which is like such a trap, and like, but also like led to some really interesting gameplay, I think. Timely Reinforcements, all-time banger. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's great design. We've done a lot of riffs on this over the years. If you have, like, you look at Beza from Bloomborough, right? It's like, to go down the list. What do you have less than your opponent? Battle, Angels of Tyr, same kind of deal. So awesome design, and really a great herald of things to come.
It also seemed like a bit of a fixed Waylay.
Yeah, it's got some Waylay vibes.
It's got a little bit of the DNA of Waylay, saying like, hey, we see you love Waylay. We're going to try to make that possible for you.
And not ball lightning this time.
Yeah, and not without making Waylay the, like, aggressor, the criminal that Waylay was, right? If you're not familiar, 2 and a white for an instant that has some kind of timing restriction, right? Or just an.
The problem is it does not have a timer.
It doesn't have a timer, right? It doesn't have a timer.
So if we
restriction.
put it, if you know, you're seeing it on the screen here, see if you can identify what's wrong about the printed version of this card.
Right.
You can go ahead if you want. But.
So it's 2 and a white, same casting cost for an instant that says put 3 2/2 white knights into play. At the end of the turn, or at the beginning of the end step, maybe in templating or whatever, exile those. Right, they're two tokens or 3 tokens. So 6 power for 3 mana.
Right now you're like, oh, I block with these 3 tokens. What's not to love?
It's an instant, and they don't have haste, so I'm not attacking with them. Right.
Except,
Princess Leia, you know, yeah.
Except as if you're a keen player, because it says at end of turn, you can cast this in your opponent's end step, which means they then survive until your next turn. So the card was called White Lightning because it was just ball lightning. You'd cast it at the end of your opponent's turn, and you would have 6 hit power you could attack with right away.
Wow.
So this card had to receive errata, right? So this card received errata to give it a timing restriction, which is what you're thinking of.
Right. The Oracle wording has a time restriction.
Or at least it did. I don't know if it still does. James, does it still have that time restriction on?
Hilariously,
or did we errata that off?
Waylay in 2026 is probably okay.
At the moment, it reads create 3 2/2 white knight creature tokens, exile them at the beginning of the next cleanup step. So, yes.
Cleanup step.
So they got errata to care about the cleanup step. So they still have
is a
cleanup step.
Yeah, which is
that's a rare thing to see.
Truly a hack to make this card work as intended.
This timely reinforcements made me think of Sunset Revelry from Midnight Hunt.
Yeah, Midnight Hunt.
Another good example.
That's the one that's 1 and a white, so it's cheaper, but. If they have more life, you gain 4 life. If they have more creatures, you only get 2 humans. But if they have more cards in hand, you draw a card. And what I like about this one is that you could be only in 2 of those scenarios. Like there's more sort of like, do I cast this now? I'm getting 4 life and drawing a card. Yeah, I'm gonna cast this now. You know, like you don't have to wait for like maximum value on it because there's there's 3 different options, and I'm generally like, yeah, if I'm 2 out of 3, probably gonna cast it.
Right. Yeah.
Which I like. All right, we got just enough time. Let's do one more. Last one, James.
Oh, the Wretched.
Wretched. 3 black for a 2/5 summon Wretched. I assume demon or beast or something in Oracle.
Looks like a demon, doesn't it?
It's demon.
Okay, cool. At end of combat, gain control of all creatures blocking the Wretched as long as you control the Wretched.
Yes, with Christopher Rush art too.
Yeah.
Nice, classic. Yeah, this card I think from the Dark originally.
Yeah.
Legends.
Oh, this is a Legends one? Okay.
Legends. Yeah, sure.
This is the original.
Wow. Yeah, let's keep this one up on the
It
screen.
feels like it's from the Dark. But maybe they already had the Fallen, ready for the Dark. So they're like, we can't have every character start with the.
I like that this is the one that just has more text that you don't need. So it's at the end of combat, take control of all creatures that block the Wretched. The Wretched does not tap or untap those creatures. You lose control of these creatures if the Wretched leaves play or if you lose control of the Wretched.
It's very specific.
You know, they thought about saying at end of combat, the Wretched takes control of all creatures that blocked or blocked, right? Like Floral Spasm or whatever.
Yeah.
So the thing with the Wretched and these kind of designs is they're really hard to make work because you tend to just not get into combat with these cards, right? Like if my opponent has a Wretched and I have a 4/4,
I take 2.
I'm not blocking, I'm not attacking. Like I don't know what to tell you. So it's a classic Singer Vampire problem. Like that ability just does not trigger very much.
Yeah.
It is a fun idea. I think it's a great early Magic concept of like how does this thing gain control of other things, and we've seen it repeated. I think. A card like Soul Collector from Scourge was intended to be a callback to the Wretched. So we've done that kind of ditty a number of times. Also, can we say the most egregious part about this card is it doesn't fly?
Sure.
It's
It does have wings.
Yeah.
Although they look like wings that might not work.
Nah, this dude.
But it does has wings.
This dude can fly. This is a whipper. No one ever calls it the Wretched problem. They call it the Whippoorwill problem.
Right.
This is the Wretched problem.
But they probably designed to be like, yeah, flying demon that steals your opponent's stuff, and then they sent the art brief away, and they're like, wait, if we don't give it flying, it's actually better.
Do you know how the art briefs worked back then?
No.
This is crazy.
Okay.
This is bananas.
Okay.
Let's imagine it's alpha.
Yeah.
Magic is being created.
Yeah.
Here's how it worked. Richard Garfield, or I guess probably Jesper actually, sent you a list of card names.
Oh?
And you picked the ones you wanted. And then you drew them.
No.
There were no art briefs.
Nothing.
It was just like, I don't know.
I mean, Rush could obviously figure it out for the Wretched or Lightning Bolt. You know, it was like, it's called Lightning Bolt. It's called the Wretched.
Right. I mean, the lightning bolt? Yeah, okay, I'll draw a lightning bolt.
Clearly, I'll draw a Lightning Bolt.
But yeah, you got handed Nightmare. You figure it out.
Right.
It's up to you. I think that's why I think we all have some nostalgia for the original Art of Magic. And while certainly not all of it hits, I think part of the reason why it's great is you get this great diaspora of so many different kinds of things and so many unusual ideas brought to life because it was truly just artists seeing names being like, I don't know, this. And I don't think that changed by the time we got to Legends. I could be wrong. I know that's how they did it back in Alpha and did it that way for several years. I'm very proud of the great art briefs we have now with so much detail and like very careful world building. But there is some charm, certainly, just like pick a name, make what you want, and go from there.
This is Autumn Willow. What do you think it will be?
Then you get the Lemire problem.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, the Hypomenes Lemire, which, honestly, on the cosmic scale of Magic the Gathering, has paid off with several good flavor text gags by this point.
True.
So,
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we've been making a meal of it.
Yeah. We're proud of our failings as well as our victories, right?
But yeah, the Wretched, it doesn't work super great, but really cool. Like, I will say, if it's 1994 and you open this card in a pack, you're like, this card is sick.
And if you want to play this today, it's like that knife from Shards of Lara is really popular.
Oh, Unscythe Killer of Kings?
Oh, that one's good too. No, I just mean the one that gives the creature death touch, and then if they connect, the opponent loses half their life.
Quiet as Spike.
Quiet as Spike. So Wretched loves Quiet as Spike because it's, you just need to give, the Wretched's demanding something. It's like, well, if you don't block me, there's also a problem.
Except Quiet as Spike also grants death touch.
Oh, wait, the death touch doesn't work. What am I saying?
I'm sorry, you're cooked, bro.
Okay. You need to give me another Quietest, but the Wretched needs you to make another Quietest Spike with no death touch.
I think the combo in the day was a lure, right? You lure this baby up, you attack.
Yeah, and then you just need to lure, regenerate, Wretched. They're done. What can they do? All they could do is race you with every other card.
You basically have them in the Abyss, which to be clear is another card you could get from Legends. So,
how would you break the Wretched? Tell us about it in the comments.
Yeah, I will say one thing I do love about this card. There's a lot I love about old Magic cards, and just how evocative they are as individual pieces is really beautiful. We still have we have a sheet of beta on the wall at Wizards, and when we need inspiration, or I need inspiration, sometimes I'll just go over and look at it for a few minutes because there's so much there that I think is just like the heart of what Magic is. And I just appreciate that this card, you see the name The Wretched, and you see that piece of art, and you're just like, this is cool. Like, this inherently looks awesome. And just seeing the Wretched and that art together in combination begins to paint a picture and tell a story. And then the ability, like, you read that ability, and there's no flavor text on this card. But you know what? You're like, yeah, that makes sense. The Wretched, stealing your stuff, something about that just feels right. And I think that is very powerful, the early days of Magic design, and it's important to look back at the classics sometimes.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for looking back at many cards with us today. This was a delight.
Super fun. I'll happily look at random Magic cards anytime.
Excellent. A reminder, of course, everything we do here at Loading Ready Run is brought to you by you and your support of our Patreon or becoming a member on this YouTube channel. You can get yourself Dragon Shield sleeves at a 5% discount with the code LRRMTG5, and you can get yourself a copy of The Wretched, probably, from Card Kingdom, cardkingdom.com/LRR. Ask them for a button to tell them that we sent you. We really appreciate it. And we also appreciate you all just being here and having a listen or a watch of this episode. Until next time, I have been Graham, joined by Nelson.
Plus X, thanks for watching. Plus Y, see you next time.
Special guest, Gavin Verhey.
May I commit no blasphemous acts anytime soon.
James has been on tech. Heather gets these online. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.